eVoice is the reason you're going to make more money in 2013. How? There are 100 ways, and you can see them all when you go to jmohr.com and click the eVoice banner. Here are some examples. When customers call, you'll have your own toll-free number, professional greeting, dial-by-name directory, and more. You could be at the bar, you could be at the beach. Won't matter because it's going to sound like you're in the office. eVoice is only $10 a month. They have a 6-month free trial that is about to come to an end. So make sure you sign up for your free trial between now and the end of this month to start your free trial before it's too late. Support Fake Mustache Studios. Stop what you're doing, hit pause, and set up your eVoice free trial and see what I'm talking about before the end of this month. eVoice. Make more money.
Put your name on it. Just put your name on it. That's all I say. Be a man or a woman. Put your name on it.
Well, I'd like to hear about it, potheads.
How the fuck you gonna know how to be great if you don't study greatness? Look at the game change.
Donuts.
If you want a battle, it's either that you will or you won't.
You know, you're not a bad-looking man, Mr. Gals.
But you are, Blanche. You are in that chair.
There's something wrong with us. Something very, very wrong with us.
Or as Kurt says in the basement tapes, are we rolling? Josh Homme, I understand you. I read that you were almost in U2, and I don't know if you were making a joke or that you were actually had like some type of bizarro world U2 audition.
No, I wasn't. I don't know where you saw that, but I've had a huge Bono before.
You have had a huge Bono.
Yeah.
How
like a morning Bono? And
yeah, but you got to measure from the rear end, right?
Yeah, I do. I got to measure all the way back.
Naturally.
I always give the full 4 inches because I think that's as wide as she can take it.
You said it in an interview about the changing lineup of Queens of the Stone Age.
Oh no! Well,
you were almost in U2 once. You said.
No. What I said is that
I thought you said I'm all right, Spider.
I lost the. Yeah, you said I'm all right, Spider.
I'm all right. You stuttering prick. Get my fucking drink.
I said I'd lost the chance to be in a U2 situation where same 4 guys whole time. You know what I mean?
When you guys go out, Queens of the Stone Age goes out, and at times it's been the exact lineup of Caius. So why not just call it Caius?
Well, because the music has changed so much. And plus, I was in Caius since I was 14 years old.
Badass.
So you sort of like, by the time you're 21, you're like, oh, fuck. I'm not, it's something that you associate with being like almost like a child.
So even though it's the same guys.
Well, it's not really the same guys anymore.
We'll rebrand ourselves. Well, there were times where Caius
in the very beginning it was a 3-piece, and it was the drummer from Caius and the original bass player Nick, and then me.
Oliveri.
Yeah.
Now you write most of your catalog. It's been you and Nick pretty much sharing songwriting. Now I've written many things.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes the 50-50 split is being very gratuitous.
Yeah.
And it works both ways. There's probably ones that he crushed himself. But let me ask you this. How does the songwriting suffer when he's no longer around, when the entire catalog is you and him pretty much?
Well, it wasn't. He wrote about 2 or 3 songs per record. And, it's been 8 years since we were together. So it's kind of like, I think I've found a way to get past it all,
You guys started out in the desert. You're really like the only band I know of that started out.
We're kind of the only band from there that really made
what do you call it? I just call it On the Way to Vegas.
I call it a rest stop on the way to Phoenix.
So it's that like 10. Just take
Palm
the 10,
Springs.
okay.
You just
like Coachella style.
Yeah, well, Coachella's the first thing that's ever really worked out there. I'm so used to
besides meth.
Yeah, well, but that still works even now.
Yeah.
And I'm so used to people trying things out there and it just fails. And so you're like, well, that didn't work. And so to see that
frowny face, boo, no. Mondays are a bummer.
So to see Coachella work is kind of exciting because it's the first thing that's ever worked out there.
And how many times have you been on the Coachella lineup?
The most of anyone, five times.
That's a home gig for you.
Yeah, it's hometown. The only hometown boy usually.
And What about like Oliveri and those guys? Are they going back to Caius, like you said? Are you guys are all like Palm Desert guys, right?
Yeah, all Palm Desert guys.
So it's a total like home gig. You're kings. You're kings of the desert as queens of the Stone Age. When you take
I can
stage
get
at
free
Coachella.
pizza there. That's
Free
pretty
pizza?
cool. Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I never pay for meth in my life when I walk through Palm Desert.
Never.
Never.
Well,
the bulls on that
but
guy.
in the desert, people are like, "Yeah, good job playing the festival." A lot. So not everyone, but there are a lot of people that are like, "What's up, rock star guy?" And those are my close friends.
But are the people there? It's a totally different world to live out there. So when you do make it to the status you've made it, like you're hot shit. You're the front man of an enormously sexy, successful band.
Yeah.
What is that like? Because what do most people do for a living? And part of my ignorance, but I only drive through.
There's my dad's a contractor. That's what I thought I was going to do, is be a general contractor.
You're a big dude. You'd be a good contractor.
Yeah, I can carry a lot of wood.
You got man hands.
Oh!
I bet you carry a lot of wood on the tour bus.
Yeah, I do. I push it. I pull it. I shape it. Why? What have you heard?
Just that.
No, yeah. Well, I have
a camera that I've installed. You swallowed one of my cameras. You thought it was ecstasy once.
Yeah,
I did. When you went to shit it out.
I thought it was GHB.
When you went to shit it out, a dick pushed it back in.
But that's the only way for it to stay.
That's right. So I just keep a conga line of opening acts.
I did that shit for science, though. I want people to see me from the inside,
Well, that's what songwriting is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of a way to get it out. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Queens of the Stone Age album?
No, I don't know. No.
Every musician I ask,
they always say this one.
They always say, I'd be a complete douche if I said the next one. I would like to think my best one hasn't happened yet. But they all say that, but I'm not going to be that guy, and then they land on one that they love.
But I'd have to take the douche route, because this last one we just did, we worked. It was it's the rawest, realest, most honest one of all. I think when you're playing, I'm 39 now, and before, you're sort of you're doing the realest thing you know how to do, but now I'm writing about and playing about stuff that I avoided most of my life, where I'm actually taking it head on nowadays,
like pulling the curtain back on the real you and the real things, your real fears and anxieties, and the human being Josh.
Yeah, where before I was like relying
veneer.
on imagery and talking about stuff at arm's length,
And it's a bit of a suit of armor. This is what I want to portray, as opposed to who I really am. And now you're writing who you really are.
I think, and to me, that's actually a really important step. And it's, I think you get, as you get older, you get firmly rooted in who you really are, and so you start to say that the only way I can actually feel something or enjoy something is be a little more vulnerable. And say, do whatever you want. You sort of put yourself out there a little farther.
You picked a perfect time too, I think, to be, if you're going to be brave like that and be vulnerable and put it out. It's been a while since there's been Queens of the Stone Age content.
Yeah.
So now everyone's like starving, the whole K-Rock crowd.
Yeah.
Like we're starving. I'll put myself in that crew. Yeah. We're starving for content. So you could have put out like, I Ain't Got Nobody cover. You could put out Louis Prima covers, and we all would have been like, see, the new direction. Cool.
It was either that, it was it.
So now there's no one's going to be like, nah, I don't know, the new shit's a little too personal, bro. We just want to hear you crush ass.
But I also think too that now for music, I've always had to fight this fight with a record company and the way the business was and all this stuff. Where
Interscope? Is that who you guys were on?
Interscope, but it doesn't really matter who it was before it was. There's always this fight where it's like, you sound a little too different to do, and you spend energy and time fighting a war with the people you're supposed to be in business with,
Yeah.
And now that shit is gone, and you kind of, it's important to really be who you are. And so I feel like, oh, well, this is great. Because now I don't have to spend any time fighting that war. And
what changes where you no longer have to fight that war?
Well, I just think the business has collapsed, really. You know what I mean? Like,
so there's not like that, like, hey, here's your gold record. You've made it. By the way, which one's pink? Like, those guys are out of the scene.
Yeah.
And now it's digital downloads. And now, is it safe to say the real way to make money is the live touring used to be so you could support the
really
album
the
and
only
make
way.
money. So now the only way to really make money is the live touring.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way to, that's the way to get out there and do well and make money and do whatever, and so I feel like it's the perfect time for a band like us where you get rewarded for being as original as possible. And so we're like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
I mean, I always thought, years ago, I always thought the business is going to collapse because these guys are kind of full of shit. And when it does, it'll be perfect for somebody, a band like us,
Yeah.
And now that it's here, I'm like, oh, this is, it's good. Actually.
You're right. There are some bands, and regrettably, some of them have completely, either died or disintegrated. But like Queens of the Stone Age, bands like Nirvana. Like you imagine a world where Nirvana didn't have anybody to answer to with a record company, and no one's influence whatsoever. Smashing Pumpkins. Like I like that Sonic.
Yeah.
I know it's completely produced.
But it's produced by
Lullaby-y.
them.
Comparatively to Queens of the Stone Age. You guys seem to tune everything a little off. It's almost like Thelonious Monk metal. That's the way I always hear it. And it starts...
That's a big compliment, actually. That's nice.
I meant it that way, too. And it starts... The bass, to me, is always... It's so just chunky and just thick like tar, but it's always just a little Altamonte.
Yeah.
Like there's always just something a little, which is Rated R was my first introduction to you guys.
Right.
And looking back, Rated R is like a pop album by comparison.
Yeah, almost nowadays, yeah. And
even Songs for the Deaf is almost poppy compared. Like you guys just went
it felt so off at the time. It felt like, I mean, I see now too how there's a certain comfort in saying no one's ever going to get this, so we're just going to keep going as far out as possible.
Radiohead, bring it back to the garage, guys. Nobody wants to see you play a Mac.
Well, but I mean, as far out like just musically,
Yeah,
like where something on Rated R, like the last song on Rated R, seemed like too bizarre for regular folks. It's called "I Think I Lost My Headache," and it's and I always felt like Deaf was just never going to be heard. That's why it's called Songs for the Deaf. It's like, here's another record no one's going to hear,
And boy, were you wrong.
Yeah, I was wrong, But
I was listening to today on the way to work, because I was fired up that you were coming in, and I was like, I remember it's such this. Not to sound like I'm washing your balls, but I just got to be honest. They're albums that to me are always they're such summer albums.
Yeah,
they're so. I remember being in Huntington Beach. I was renting a house, and I remember like I had Rated R and Songs for the Deaf, and I just wore them out.
Yeah,
and I loved the whole flicking the radio channel and stuff. And so, Kip Casper, the DJ that you had on, the fake guy.
Well, we had these parties. We had a couple of parties at the end of just DJ parties, and had people come over. And
when you were recording Songs for the Deaf,
to be the DJs. And meanwhile, we had this kind of holding tank room where we were getting our friends drunker and drunker, so they could really get into character of being these different DJs, and kind of gave them, the right people, these kind of little scripts to get them started and then let them riff, But by midnight, everyone was like, this is Kip Casper, hey,
I need a saga.
Yeah, give me a saga.
But that, when the guy said it, you guys were probably laughing because it made no sense, but it fits perfectly with the album.
When the minute he said that, it was like, this is perfect.
Need a saga.
Yeah, because that's exactly what we were trying to do,
It's great.
Yeah.
And it is totally summertime. And the Queens of the Stone Age roster, you guys get a lot of turnover, and you do it successfully. Few bands do it well.
Well, but it's a protective measure almost. Initially,
you're Queens of the Stone Age, part and parcel. Like, you're getting Josh Homme.
Yeah.
And then, Oliveri for a long time was your guy. And then your drummer, Nick Lucero.
He was on Rated R. He played for half of it. But Joey Castillo was the drummer for a long time.
He's the guy with all the tattoos?
Yeah.
He works... I was watching stuff on YouTube. Yeah. I didn't realize how hard this cat worked.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. On the what I thought was the most basic songs. My man is working so hard.
Well, that's the thing, too, that we've had a lot of drummers over the years, and we just parted ways with Joey, and now we're playing with this guy, John Theodore. We played with Dave on our new record.
Yeah, how does Dave Grohl join Queens of the Stone Age?
Well, Dave and I have been friends since, I remember when he went to he was in L.A. and he went up to Seattle to audition for a band, Because
what band was that?
Nirvana.
I don't know who that is.
And I was 19, and I just briefly kind of met him in passing, and then we met again about a year later, and as he was just you know. And so I've known him since I was 19 years old.
It was just what? You didn't.
Well, they were just going on tour, you know, for Nevermind.
But I mean, does he listen to your albums and vice versa, and you guys are just mutual fans of one another, and then you're down a guy and you go, hey, you should.
Well, when this happened with the new record, and we just, you know, when you're playing music with someone, you kind of, or you're friends with someone, your lives are parallel, and it's natural that at some time people split off and go different directions. And long ago I kind of gave up getting upset about when that happens. It just happens, and it's okay. And I really am more thankful. Like, wow, we just had 10 years together. It sucks that when you part ways, but also you have to be willing to sort of understand that occurs.
Yeah.
And so that happened in the studio with our drummer Joey, and where we just had the rest of the band was in one spot and he was kind of in a different spot. And so I just called Dave and said, you know, I mean, after we had parted with Joey, I said, dude, I need to finish this record. Will you play drums? And
which record was it that he came in?
This new one. And it was Def too. Same thing.
I was going to say, yeah, because that was
Def, and then now this one 3 records later after Def, you know.
Did he tour with you guys?
On Def he did. He toured for about 4 months, 3 months.
Then you got to replace Dave because he's got to go
with
back
Joey.
to Foo Fighters.
That's who, yeah. And we had to replace him in 2 weeks.
Oh.
So it was like, what do? You know, how do you find someone to play like this in 2 weeks? And it was Joey that we found to do it, you know.
The turnover in the band, I know it's by design, and like I guess the best equated to the listener would be like, I just can't do a 9-to-5 job. I need the clientele to always overturn. But how hard is it for you, having written these songs and having created them in your mind, to constantly having to bring 2-3 guys at a time up to speed on a catalog? Not a couple.
It's a lot of work, especially now. It's a lot of work.
It makes you have to rehearse more.
Yeah, and but it also keeps. I like to keep the knife edge sharp. And I think any band that plays should work. Like, we play 5 nights a week because I don't think it pays to get mentally fat or physically fat, you know, like.
Yeah, I disagree completely, obviously. You know? I'm real mentally fat and have a nice boiler on me.
Well, I just think you got to keep the knife edge sharp to really, if you're.
But that's not why you're turning the band over, Josh.
Well, at first, the reason to do that is because it's hard to find people to play with, and I sort of presupposed that these relationships wouldn't last, and you try to get the most of them in the moment. Right. And so it's sort of protective. Like, I'm going to keep changing the lineup, but it's a way to protect yourself from being stuck, you know?
But if I make Queens of the Stone Age and I'm on the first album, then I'm on Rated R, and then you tell me you're replacing me with another guy because you want to keep it fresh, I think you're a dick for the rest of my life.
Well,
this is my ticket.
But it doesn't quite work that way. In that, you know, a lot of times we'll record with someone and you just tell someone in advance, I want to do this for this length of time, you know, or I want to do this for this album cycle, or. You know, really what it's really been is you have the intention of trying to stay together for as long as possible. And when you hit a brick wall together, it's like, hey, you know, this is the time to get off the train, you know. It
seems like the hardest thing to do for a band, aside from the travel, obviously, but to audition guys must be
that's actually a nightmare because
almost
we don't
embarrassing because you got to tell a guy like, you're really not good enough to play with us.
Well, that's why we really don't do it. When we needed to find a new drummer for this now to go on tour, we basically, you know, people heard that we you know, we're looking for a drummer, and it is embarrassing almost. There's something about it that where it's like, I don't want to go through this. It almost makes you want to quit or something instead.
Like, everyone's good enough. It's just a vibe probably at some point.
Well, everyone isn't good enough. That's the thing.
Oh, okay. I thought once they make the cut to audition, they were obviously good enough because you brought them in.
Well, I'm not kind of out in the world like we've been really lucky because the guy we're playing with now, John Theodore, is a fucking monster. And we've known him for years. And
from which band?
He was in the Mars Volta, and
great name for a band.
Yeah, that is a great name actually. Yeah. And you know, I've toured with him when the Mars Volta and Queens were opening for the Chili Peppers, and I've known him for years, and we just said, come on down, and it worked out because that process of having to audition somebody, I just can't do that. You know, I don't want to do that. I'd rather break up the band and start over than then go
Chad
through
from the
auditions.
Chili Peppers. All of a sudden, I'm like, he'd be great in Queens of the Stone Age. Chili Peppers, not my. I like the Chili Peppers, but it's not something I will listen to on a regular. They're not my shuffle. Is that fair? You know what I mean?
That's a fair.
But not really a band you can blow off the stage. They always seem to come out with fucking light bulbs on their head, or dressed like insects, or naked, and you're like, we had them. Yeah. We had them. And then they just waited that extra 10 minutes. People got rowdy, and they came out dressed as a Devo.
Well, I think they're showmen. You know, that's and I think they have they're energetic. You know,
and talk about a perfect band where the parts didn't fit. I mean, when you put Dave Navarro in your band and get worse, that's like I've never heard of that happening before.
Well, there's something about there's something about John Frusciante that just sort of locked them together, right? I mean,
he's this magical guy.
Well, and I just think there's also something about Zeppelin. You know, they lose Bonham and they're just like, all right, that's it. You know,
they tap out.
Yeah, there's something works, and like I always felt like ideally a band. I was used to think ideally a band makes 3 records and then you stop and change the band name, and because that way you're always keeping it vital.
Well, that's how you started.
Yeah, well, that's kind of was what I was going to do over and over is keep changing.
You want me to give you a new name? Yeah,
what do you got?
Jay Mohr.
That
Jay
is
Mohr's
so
headlining
good.
Coachella.
Jay Mohr. Celebrity matchmaker.
Oh man, that's bad, dude. Some bands.
I thought
change,
you were going to set me up here.
I'll set you up. Some bands change, like the fact that the Stones had Brian Jones, then got Mick Taylor, and then he quits, and then he just gets replaced with
Crikey.
Just have one of his.
Yeah, what do you got?
And just gets replaced with Ron Wood. Like that's unheard of.
Well, and then you mentioned that it successfully works. I think
and each guy's perfect.
It needs to feel right and be right, and I think that's where we've gotten really lucky. Is that we really have sort of, without auditioning anybody, there's a family of artists that we're associated with. There's a guy called Alan Johannes that's incredible, you know, and Chris Goss. And all these people that are kind of
been with you from day one.
Yeah, I mean, I've made tons of records with him. He's a record producer and he's a singer, a songwriter. And so we've kind of been surrounded by this family of artists that's dense enough, densely packed with talent enough that really there's been a lot of moments where it's like, will you come and do this album cycle with us? And they'll say, yeah. And so it's not really like getting fired or something.
Right.
I mean, there's been plenty of incidents of that too. But even when that comes up, I think all you can do is be honest with someone and say, hey, I'm moving on. This is what I'm doing. I know you probably don't.
It seems like
that.
Josh, when you say us, it's really you. Like you're Queens of the Stone Age. Are you the only part that has never changed?
Yeah. Well, I think
you should really like have a bad attitude about it and walk around with like a cigarette holder and a long bathrobe like John Barrymore.
Your Honor, I'd like to press charges of murder against Gilligan.
Thank you for coming to see me and these other guys. Appreciate it, Coachella. Big respect. Now you just got back from Chile.
I think I've always been a reluctant leader. I'm playing with guys. All these guys could do it alone, but then you're alone. You know, I love the camaraderie of doing something, and also I kind of feel like it's a pirate ship.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, people think, oh, the captain of the pirate ship's the most important role. But that's not true. When you're out on the ocean, if the cook fails, you die. If the rigger fails, you die. And if the captain fails, you die. And so what it really becomes is if someone has role envy, that's a real problem. If you're the cook and you want to be the captain, that's a real problem.
The strength of the pack is the wolf.
Well, and I also...
You run with some pretty talented wolves, my man.
I've had that been blessed to play with real players, you know, and
real singers. Like we got to talk about Lanigan. Like the fact that Mark Lanigan is on again, off again, lead singer of Queens of the Stone Age. I don't know why there aren't like more articles written about the fact that the guy from Screaming Trees.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought it was strange too that people didn't pick up on the fact that this was this thing that's greater than the parts.
It's
because I feel like. You know, having Lanigan there was such a cool thing.
Yes, and what you're saying is what I've always felt about the band, and the you don't need credibility, but you just imported it anyway. Like, you guys want rock and roll, like, we're gonna fuck your heads up. Here's Lanigan from Screaming Trees, And then he only sings on 3 songs sometimes. So I wonder, like, when he's on tour, what's he doing the rest of the time? Is he standing there with a fucking tambourine?
No, never.
He
Lanigan,
seems
no.
he's a front man. And
Yeah.
he's
So he would sing on like 6 or 7, and we would just group it all together. Like we wrote more and did more stuff, and I always thought it would just be great to be part of this, almost like this sludge that was just rolling forward, and it had all these characters, these real characters in it, and you never know what was going to lead the way first, and that's why I've always kind of looked at it like I'm at the helm of this family that is ever changing, and that would be a great way to have 6 records because they would all be so different. It would be a great way to have 20 records because it always presents something new. The only constant is that it will always be new,
For you playing live, what's the most important instrument around you that you have to sync up with as a lead guitarist and singer-songwriter? Like, what's the one guy in the band that you have to be completely in tune with, or the whole thing goes off the rails?
I mean, for me, honestly, and maybe oddly, it's the drummer.
Yeah.
Because I always wanted to be a drummer. I played drums in Eagles of Death Metal, and I play guitar more percussively than I do trying to be good.
You play guitar drummy.
I do. I'm a drummist. I'm a drummerist.
Goes to 11.
And so I think playing with the drummer is good.
Spinal Tap conversation we're having.
So I have one practical question: are we going to do Stonehenge?
Yes.
Yes, we are going to do Stonehenge.
Yes. It's 36 inches.
No, we're not going to do. No.
So the drummer. So when there's turnover with the drummer, does your playing? Do you? Well, how often do you go back?
I think
and
we
listen?
meet in the middle.
Yeah.
They have to come towards me, and I have to sort of, like assimilate who they are as a drummer too.
Mark Lanigan to me seems like a real red ass, and he seems like a guy that when you tell him like you're just going to sing once in a while in my band, I'm sure you don't put it that way, but that's not. He knows the deal. But it seems to me for him to be on tour and having like these breaks. It's the last guy. I don't think people realize how cool an arrangement this is. The fact that you landed him is a coup. The fact that he landed you guys is a coup. It's like the last refuge of grunge. Like you've pulled this guy. I don't know what he would be. He'd probably have some other band.
Well, I mean, his solo stuff is incredible. If you haven't heard it, it's so good.
But the fact that he's out with a band, like the full thing. But is he just like a nice guy in real life? But he seems like when I watch him sing, when I watch Queens of the Stone Age, I'm like, that guy could probably handle himself in a bar fight. Like he seems like a red ass.
Yeah, he definitely could.
Yeah.
And Lanigan is, I say this lovingly, he's one of the meanest guys I know that I like.
Yeah.
And he's not a mean guy at all. He's a quiet guy, and if he were here, he would be standing over in the corner over there, And when he's with me and when he's with one of his friends, he's one of the funniest, most affable, likable guys. But I look at him and I think of the difference between famous and infamous. When someone's famous, that someone goes, "Oh, there's Lanigan, let's go talk to him." And when they're infamous, it's like, "Oh, there's Lanigan, don't go talk to him."
So when you're doing like meet and greets after your show and fans are coming up to you, it's Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age. It's got to be a little weird to you to realize nobody's like running towards Mark Lanigan because he's.
Well, but I think they're afraid to go talk.
Am I
to Mark.
overselling his pedigree? I don't think I am. To me, he's royalty-ish.
He is, and his voice. I mean, he sings about toothpaste and I want to brush. I mean, he is just that guy, but he's also a bit of a vapor in that he's like it'd be meet and greets or something like that, and he'd be on the bus. You know what I mean? He's kind of like a shadow,
Now, do you pay these guys like higher? I don't even know anybody's salaries. Like I heard Ronnie Wood is still on salary by the Stones.
It's probably a huge salary.
And then that's why he went to rehab that one time because you can't go on tour if you're rhythm, or I guess now he's lead guitarist because Keith's 106. But if your lead guitarist is in rehab, you can't go on tour. So he wasn't really in rehab for anything other than they had to renegotiate his contract to spring him, so he would go.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Well, I mean,
it's a great story I just made up. But the point being is...
It really was amazing the way you sold that so heavy.
I didn't make it up. Super inside info. But the thing with you guys, it's like how... When these guys keep jumping on the ship and jumping off the pirate ship, is it just is it favored nations? Does everybody get the same amount of money? Like, how do you explain to one guy why, like, Lanigan probably would get the most money because...
Well, everyone gets the... I tried to make this a place... You see so many other bands where people get kind of treated like shit and sort of...
people meaning other band members?
Other band members where you know... What I'd like to think is that Queens is you'll never get a fairer shake than you do when you're with us, you know.
But how do you decide that, or do you just let your corporate take care of that?
No, I do everything myself. If I let somebody go, I do it myself. If I bring someone on board, I go talk to them myself, and we work out everything. There's nothing
This is brutal.
Yeah.
Like, this is a horrible responsibility. A guy comes up to you and goes,
but I'm a contractor's son, and I want someone to know that what I say is what I mean.
Yeah,
And I'm not going to let somebody else, I get to enjoy the good parts of this. And to me, it comes with, if there's a rough part, I should have to deal with that too.
I mean, what do you say? Like, look, bass, 4 strings, guitar, 6 strings. He's going to make a little more money.
That's 2 strings extra.
He's got 2 strings extra. He needs 2 string extra money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This guy only got 2 drumsticks. He's fucked.
I wish it was that cut and dry. What it is it's as just everyone should be happy, and we don't like I have a saying that I shine a light on all the dark cracks no one can hide and you should be able to talk about anything even if it's uncomfortable, and that way it's out in the open and everyone understands, and no one in a band, the worst thing that could happen is that there would be resentment or secrets, or you know what I mean, even if
right.
In all
you
the
got
times,
30 guys in the secretary pool. What do you care? You're like a benevolent dictator.
That's what I would that's what I would call it.
Yeah,
a benevolent dictatorship.
I could never understand why "Feel Good Hit of the Summer" moved me, and it hit me in my gut, and it was on my shuffle when I would work out, and if I was like if I was fighting or if I was running on the beach and I had the earbuds in, I always just had that.
I just pictured you running in slow-mo on the beach, and that was really
I have to run fast because I hate it so much, which makes me. And I wear a mouthpiece, so I imagine I'm fighting an MMA fighter. Yeah, you didn't know that about me? It's in the glove box. It's in the glove box. I'll show it to you. I run with a mouthpiece in, like I'm getting ready, getting ready for a fight, because I think these guys.
Rocky 3.
These guys that train that I love watching fights. Like you laugh your balls off. I don't give a shit. Yeah, I run with a mouthpiece, and the lifeguards always break my balls. They're like, "You'd be a lot easier without that mouthpiece, man."
We just so you like the fights.
I love the fights, but real quick, the thing is with "Feel Good Hit of the Summer," it in the fade. I like the whole. Well, I'm not gonna tell you every song of Queens of the Stone Age. It's in my shuffle, but "Feel Good Hit of the Summer," just nicotine, Valium, Vicodin, alcohol. Like I just could never understand why that super tiny, simple thing. I just kind of enraged me and gave me this visceral response. And then I'm reading through some notes last night. Fucking Rob Halford's on it.
Totally.
Fucking Rob Halford. And as soon as I read it, I go, that's why. There is menace. There's such menace to it. And then when I listen to it again, I'm like, I think I hear him. I think I hear him.
The high and
I don't know if it was the high or the low, but either way, it's you and him.
Yeah, well, there's kind of a gang vocal at the end, and he's doing lots of those.
But what I like at the very end is when it's super low.
Yeah. There's
and then the reprise after in the fade is like you blessed me.
Yeah, well, it's come back around again, because I think it was I think it was like I think it was I suck at time, but it may have even been the 1999 New Year's, and I was walking away I was in Joshua Tree, and I was walking away from this party, and I was taking stock of what was in my body. I was going, oh my God. And it was this laundry list, and I was actually walking at the pace of dun, 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 through the desert trying to get back to this little hotel from this party. And it just dawned on me. Well, by the time you get there, you have a stutter.
Yeah, it's perfect.
You're sort of like...
You write great songs, dude. The new album, like clockwork, how long does it take you from the time you say, all right, it's time? First of all, why the long layoff? A really long layoff.
Well, because I did some Eagles of Death Metal stuff, and I did them Crooked Vultures with Dave, and John Paul Jones.
Yeah, I got that circled right here.
Yeah.
JPJ.
Yeah, and
I saw you guys on Jonathan Ross when that went down.
Yeah.
And Jonathan Ross said you guys were the greatest guys in walk.
on walk, yeah,
Instead of rock, you guys are like,
Really?
these are great guys in walk and roll.
Yeah.
You guys apparently in Jonathan Ross's show in England are great at walk and roll.
We did walk off afterwards.
Sounds like Long Duck Dong from fucking 16 Candles.
Really? Married?
Walk and roll. Married.
Yeah.
Married.
Yeah. Married?
Married.
Yeah, married?
Married.
Yeah. And then the door shuts.
Married. No more Yankee the Wanky. Jonathan Ross needs food. So, how long? All right. So I'm going to get to John Paul Jones, and I'm not
so, I
sure
mean, that's
if
a lot
I'm
of
done with
stuff
my
to do.
Lanigan questions, but how long before? Why the long layoff? Oh, because you were doing your other things.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing
But
stuff, and then.
Are you sated playing like the Hot Potato on Ventura Boulevard? I mean, you're playing much smaller rooms. You guys are gods when you go out and play these metal places. And grunge, I don't know if grunge is still a word anymore, but
it is. It's under my fingernails.
Yeah, it is. I saw the Harley you pulled up on.
schmutz.
It was sweet, bro. By the way, Josh pulled up on a very sweet motorcycle. Fat, like fucking country bacon. That thing was nice.
Yeah, it was a thick cut.
And I made you turn it off because my baby was sleeping. You can't come in here with a motorcycle. There's children in here, you idiot.
There was a panic, too. It was like, turn it off.
What are you doing? Just turn it off. We'll roll it up. It's like we're stealing it from our parents.
Like
roll down the hill, kickstart.
Like you're my big brother. You're like, turn it off.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
So when you're performing with those other bands, you get to fulfill, I'm guessing, the romanticism of when you first started with Caius. You're playing much smaller rooms.
Well,
there's a much more.
I just like something new, and I like, it's a bit like.
Well, I like new stuff too, Josh, but I want to get paid.
Yeah, but honestly, that really can't be the motivator, or I feel like it's all messed up. I feel like it can't be to do well, and it can't be to make money. It's got to be. I don't know. I honestly feel like music is this. It's like a religion, and you really have to pay into it, and you kind of have to humble yourself at the altar of rock.
Yeah.
Because really, if you're not going to try to do something classic, what the fuck are you doing here? And so none of that really matters to me. I feel like if I just work all the time and I try to, you can always put something out, but you can never take it back. So if I'm conservative about what I put out, the rest of that will just sort itself out,
What guitarist were you listening to growing up in Palm Desert that you were like, I got to get into this?
Greg Ginn from Black Flag.
Really?
For me, that was that.
Nice.
That was, and this guy Jock from GBH, and just
City baby, attacked by rats.
But see, all that stuff was really hooky to me too.
GBH, bro, come on. You didn't expect that out of me, did you?
I didn't expect that, but I love that you did that.
All right, good.
See, all the kids at home know how badass you are.
I didn't pull up on a Harley.
Yeah.
I got the Range Rover with the baby seats.
Yeah.
I have 2 baby seats, and I just drive around in circles.
But only one baby.
Yeah, and I act like I'm looking for another baby.
Yeah.
Look, you got to plan for your future. You do financial planning. You get insurance. So get real peace of mind by going to LegalZoom.com. Make sure your family is legally protected. That's where you go for affordable legal protection, LegalZoom.com. For over 12 years, they've been helping Americans get personalized wills, powers of attorney, living trusts, real estate documents, and more. LegalZoom also helps start and maintain businesses with incorporation and LLC filings, trademarks, and copyrights. Their time-saving service was developed by a team of experienced attorneys, and LegalZoom takes care of you from start to finish. LegalZoom documents have been accepted by courts and government agencies in all 50 states. LegalZoom is not a law firm, but they can connect you to an attorney and provide self-help services at your specific direction. For even more savings, enter MOHR, Mohr, in the referral box at checkout. If you're a parent or entrepreneur, don't wait any longer. Call or visit LegalZoom.com and protect what's yours. So, John Paul Jones, when you do Them Crooked Vultures with Dave Grohl and John Paul Jones, how... It's just such a fucking haircut question. I apologize. How does that come about where you go, hey, let's form like a mini super band, just the 3 of us?
Well, it didn't really. That was it. No, I I've been friends with Dave for a long time. We were kind of looking for something to do together that we're honestly where we weren't going to have to tour that much. This was the idea, is just to make something and put something out and
do like 20 dates.
Well, and he said, well, I'm gonna email John Paul Jones and see if he wants to do it. And I was like, totally. And I'm gonna email George Bush and I'll ask him if he wants to drive the truck.
Yeah, or play bass. Who knows?
Or I don't know what he does. Yeah, like
Bill Clinton.
I don't think
sax,
he knows what he does.
Millard Fillmore can bowl.
Sax appeal. That's what he's got.
That's the name of the band. He does have sax.
That was the other option, but it was taken
I
by
just picked up
Canadian jam band. Yeah.
So John Paul Jones says, "Yeah, I would love to tour with these guys."
Yeah, he
at
said,
least make a record.
He said, "Yeah, let's jam and see what happens." And so we did. And there was a few songs that just came out of that jam.
I got to tell you, you and Dave seem to me like a completely different computer program than John Paul Jones. It doesn't seem like John Paul Jones, as great as he is, and Zeppelin was like metal back in the day. Like, don't let anybody fool you. You know this, obviously.
Yeah.
But like, it seems like John Paul Jones, you guys could have lost him in the weeds, but he was right there.
I mean, Jones is like, he's the bass player in rock. I mean, you say who are the greatest rock bass players, and you're like, John Paul Jones, and then you say other people after that.
There's always four guys.
I mean, and so he just locked in so fast, and really, it's all in chemistry, because I honestly I couldn't be part of something just because it had Dave and John Paul Jones.
But how come nobody hooked up with John Paul Jones earlier?
Honestly, I think it's a question of asking.
Yeah.
I really do. I think.
Hey, I get a lot of the guests on this podcast. Should people go, how'd you get him? I go,
I asked him.
You and I just texted back and forth. It was done.
But I think that's actually it seems like a bigger chasm than it really is to most people, and that it's like you just ask him and see what he says, and sort of pursue it honestly like that, and. You're so often surprised by how, let's try it. It is,
So you guys just start jamming. Like, that's the thing that musicians always say, that we just sat around and we jam. Like, you guys plug in, and I guess Dave just starts hitting hard. He hits hard. When I was on Saturday Night Live, he drummed. For some reason, whoever the Heartbreaker drummer was for Tom Petty wasn't there, and Dave Grohl sat in with the Heartbreakers, and it was. You know what? It wasn't the Heartbreakers. It was Wildflowers. It was a very nice Tom Petty album. And Dave Grohl hit the Skins like he was mad at him. And it was like alarming how hard he was playing.
Well, it doesn't matter which drum or cymbal it is. They all get the same like facial backhand that,
it's
that
really
the other drums get.
It's drum bukkake is what it is. It's an onslaught of beatings.
It's a rocky
and then, but Tom Petty singing, "My old man was born to rock." He's still
in the background, it's going
boom, boom, bang. And it's a super simple time, but he's just kicking the shit out of it. So I guess he starts first when you jam.
No, I mean, it all has to be based around songs, doesn't it, at the end of the day? Because,
So what do you start? When you sit down with John Paul Jones, you obviously don't go, hey, let's do Dazed and Confused. Like, you got to pick something generic,
I think
right?
we kind of had this silent agreement not to attempt anything down that road, because that would just feel douchey. Dude.
Do you remember what song you guys started just banging out?
We started a song that was called Spinning in the Daffodils, and that ended up being called Spinning in the Daffodils. And it was just this kind of had this Middle Eastern riff to it, and it just sort of worked, and everyone started smiling. And I think when you look at each other and you feel something in the room that's really greater than all of you. It's a bit like when you have a first date with a girl when you're younger, and you leave and you have those butterflies in your stomach, and that's what a good song does to you, or that moment does to you.
You're dating John Paul Jones.
You are, and when you walk away and you go, oh, jeez.
He looks like a midget between you and Dave.
Well, a lot of people look like a midget next to me.
Yeah, you're a big dude.
I mean, not to midgetize anybody, but...
did you notice, aside from that buzz sound, a bird started singing right when you mentioned John Paul Jones?
Yeah, he's always got people watching me.
Bird's a spy.
They're following me.
I like that the John Paul Jones has a bird spy. How do you get? Oh, I got to tell you this. I
What are they
watched.
singing for though? It's night. Do you have like a? Do you have
It's
a good
open
bird
mic.
guy?
It's a big open mic side.
Yeah.
Open mic night.
Next.
Yeah, if they can cut it tonight, they
Right.
gradually work them into mid mornings.
I like the first bit. Yeah, the first bird was good.
Yeah, he was good.
He was good.
They gave him the light. He had to get out of here.
Yeah.
Open mic night. I wonder that all the time.
Yeah.
What's this bird outside my window at 11 at night? Tweet. Let me
Yeah,
work out my new stuff.
Yeah, just write it down
Tweet,
and mail it to
tweet.
me.
I watched
Yeah,
you
tweet it.
do an acoustic version of In the Fade, and I thought to myself, "Why? I think you're wasting money paying Mark Lonigan. You're a really great singer. Why do you? Is it hard? Do you not want to sing and play guitar and do all the business of the band?
No,
because when I
don't-
watched that acoustic version, I was stunned at how good you were at it.
Well, I don't care what role that I would play in something. If something's really good, I don't mind making coffee for it. You know, I want to be around things that I feel like are really quality, and I don't mind. Just sometimes I think early on too that I wasn't always into singing, and that's why I was like, Nick, sing, and Mark, come in.
Not into it because of why? You didn't think you were good enough, or you just want to shred?
I feel like I've always felt like a guitar player, and
Do you realize the money you could save if you would just fire Mark Lonigan?
yeah. Well, he's not with us now, so I guess that's the savings now.
So but you got to pay Grohl.
Yeah, I'm passing
my
on the
God.
savings.
Grohl's got a huge note on his back. Holy shit! It's like hiring the Yankees.
Yeah,
You can't pay Grohl to save money. You're paying everybody else. You guys were just in Chile. You and I were texting. You were in Chile doing Queens of the Stone Age songs. Yeah. Eddie Vedder joined you on stage.
Yeah.
Now he's in Chile looking at real estate. How does this work out?
Well, he's a cowbell aficionado. A lot of people don't know he trained in Juilliard to do cowbell.
Yeah. And that's for the cowbell.
And it was
summit
really
is.
we played at a Chili's. It was you got the
Yeah.
text wrong.
I don't want the listeners to think they were in the country of Chile. In Sherman Oaks, there's a Chili's.
Yeah.
And Josh and his buddies
We're going to be at
goofing
Applebee's
off.
on the open mic night.
Yeah, El Torito said you can't bring those cowbells in here. There's too many.
You can't
of
bring
them.
the cowbells.
Mira, no. So Eddie Vedder joined you guys on. I've always wanted to be at a concert where like a super famous guy comes out on stage, and it's never happened.
Right.
I've always been at the concert
You
where
got to
like
go to Chile. Yeah.
I got to go to Chile.
Chile.
I've always been at the concert where like Springsteen goes, all right, now Patty's going to sing a few, and you're like, no, this is a horrible idea.
But
Or like you go see Keith Richards in the Expensive Winos, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. He goes, you guys like Wadi Wacho? And you're like, no, not to sing right now. I kind of want you to just
just keep doing.
Walk before they make me run, and I can get out of here.
Well, that's the second time he's cowbelled for us during a show.
You made a joke, but I'm not.
That is the second time he cowbelled.
He cowbelled the shit out of it. Like,
Yeah,
not
actually-
funny like Will Ferrell's sketch.
Yeah.
Like he was beating it like Grohl hit cymbals, and he never lost a beat. And all I
I
could
was
think
surprised
of
at actually
is my
how
hand would get tired.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised at how hard he was belling. I mean, I looked over and he was going, God damn it! And,
Why was he in Chile?
well, they were playing too.
Was it like a festival?
Yeah, it was a Lollapalooza festival, and they were headlining the festival. And
It was really Lollapalooza in Chile?
yeah, they've done Lollapalooza South America.
Perry Farrell lives down the street, and he's got like hip surgery. He's just got a check coming in the mail because you guys are playing in fucking Chile. This
He's
guy's
got hips. He's that hip. He's got hip surgery.
Yeah, that's it. Ooh, so like, holy smokes, the amount of money this guy must make.
Yeah, it was Lollapalooza, Sao Paulo, and Chile, and I guess they're going to start doing Argentina as well. So,
what country are you the most famous in, the band, where it's like you can't believe how many tickets sell, other than the U.S.?
Luxembourg.
Really?
Actually, we do play Luxembourg, but
Tiny
that's about
country.
it, yeah, it's easy to get big there. Just walk around, basically.
Just have pancakes and beer for 2 days.
Yeah,
You're the biggest guy there.
Stand and wave
Luxembourg,
and let it happen.
I believe the world's smallest country. Josh showing us how funny he is.
Yeah, that was.
I
the
think
funny.
that's what's missing from the next Queen of the Stone Age album, the comedy.
The comedy
section.
side. Yeah.
Yeah, how's everybody doing out there tonight?
Yeah.
How about a round of applause for the ladies in the house?
Is this thing
tonight?
on? Yeah.
Laugh it up, guys. I laughed when you came in. That's my crowd. That's my crowd work.
Yeah, there you go.
You people stink. That's way funnier.
These jokes ain't gonna laugh themselves, people. Yeah,
Who else was
I
on
don't
that
know.
tour? On Lollapalooza?
The Black Keys and the Hives and Pearl Jam, and it was a good lineup. It was good.
Pearl Jam obviously closes, right?
Yeah, they closed, and then
Hives, I hope.
it was like 3 nights.
Go up real early.
Yeah. No, the Hives are great. Have you seen
Yes?
the Hives? Oh, they're incredible.
Educate me. All
Yeah,
right, cool.
They're incredible, and live they're even more incredible. In fact, they're one of the bands that you got to be careful when you play next to them, because the singer Pele is such a he's like a part Baptist preacher, part animal, and he whips the crowd into such a frenzy that it's just like a cool whip.
Tough to follow.
It is actually tough. They're one of the few bands that's really tough to follow.
Who are the other bands that you've had a hard time following where you're like, this? We got to wait longer before we come out. This is too hard.
Well, I honestly love playing with bands where you have to play your best. Like I can't stand taking a band on tour where I'm like, oh geez, we're just gonna
How am I going to follow Ziggy Marley?
Yeah. Well,
Tomorrow, people, nicotine volume.
you can see where that would be really difficult. I think.
What bands were the hardest for you to follow? The Hives, you just mentioned.
Well, the Hives, and I think if you play around bands like if you play a festival and you're playing around Nick Cave or something too, I think they do such a thing that
Nick
you're
Cave,
sort of like, yeah,
surprised me.
Yeah, well, I'm a Nick Cave fan, but I don't really feel, to be honest, that's kind of the list in a way. I feel I love to play around bands that
That's not
make
the
you
question,
run for
Josh
your money.
Homme. The question is, give me the names of bands that you've been on stage and realized,
Your Honor?
these guys are hard to follow.
Yeah, the Hives. And, people always say that playing with Rage Against the Machine is a difficult task, but I kind of, we've done it a bunch of times, and
you have to follow them?
No, not follow them, but just play in near the that sphere of their stuff, But I don't know. There's not that many bands that I feel like are tough to follow.
Yeah, I feel the same way. That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, in my life, I'm like I was at the Improv.
Right.
I'm there every Tuesday.
Yeah.
And they go, Seinfeld's coming in, and were you there that night? And the whole staff was like, so what are you going to do when he comes in?
What are you going to do?
I was like, I'm going to bring him on stage. And they go, and then what? What about when he gets off? I go, I'm going to go back on stage. Yeah. And it was so far. I'm like, what the fuck is...
Well, I think you have to, at some point you have to say, I do this and I do it as good as I can do. And it does what it does.
How about a round of applause for that guy? Where were we?
Yeah.
And I think he's great.
Yeah.
Who, is there a band that when you guys were coming up, you took great pleasure blowing up the stage?
I'm at this point in my life where I want to play with the best bands just to have an A-B scenario where people can compare whatever, because I'd rather...
You give me all these politician answers, Josh.
Well, I mean,
I'm smiling. I sound like we're being combative.
I'll play with anybody, basically.
I know, but when you were coming up, do you remember opening for somebody and going, fuck, yeah, they couldn't follow that shit?
I'll give you an example. We played...
Like Guns N' Roses couldn't follow Metallica.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and Metallica can't follow Slayer.
However, AC/DC can follow Metallica.
Well, AC/DC could follow anybody.
Right. They just dim the lights, and then the strobes go up.
And shit occurs, and everyone gets destroyed, and that's all there is.
There's a goddamn cannon on stage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you have your own cannon, you pretty much can play after anyone.
I'm going to start bringing a cannon on tour with me.
Yeah.
Hey, at corporate gigs, it wouldn't go over too well.
Right after Seinfeld, you fire a cannon.
For those that are ready to continue, fire! In Brian Johnson's voice. Is there a band you remember destroying and you realized we're really good? That was awesome. Because I can remember coming up as a comic, there's guys you got to open for, and you're like, oh, this guy's got a problem. Fuck him. Watch this.
Well, I mean, I got to be honest with you. Whoever we play with, I'm like, you better get your shit together before you play.
Do you tell that to the other band?
No, but it's something. It's just something you're like. If you think for 1 second that we're not going to like burn the guitar, and if there will be blood, because I'm willing to do anything to make a show right and individual tailored. Like, we don't play the same set every night. We don't,
including replacing members of said band.
I'm willing to do anything to chase the music.
Right.
I really am, and so I want it to be. we're not really doing a show where you like the same thing happens every night.
Yeah.
You say the same things. And I played with bands like, I've played, before Green Day, at least American Idiot, and they were playing before us at this festival, and I saw them do the same thing every single night. And I thought, oh, that's just not for me.
Even the same ad libs.
The same say everything, the same things that whip the crowd up, and that's fine, and that's a show, but that's not what I do. It needs to be real and tailored. We have people that'll go to 5 shows in a row, and even if it's only 2 people, I think to myself, God, we would really do the same thing again. Say the same thing.
Is there a competition when you do those festivals?
Absolutely.
Really? Because a lot of bands will go be like, nah, we're just there to have a good time.
I know that's because they lost. I just think that I think that it's natural and fine to want to destroy all the other bands, and you're friends with these people too, but that doesn't mean that you're not trying to blow everyone away. In fact, like that's the only reason I'm there. I love the chance to watch other bands play too, because if you're on tour alone so much, you just you only see yourself. A
lot of PlayStation.
Yeah. A lot of walking around, just a lot of like, oh God, what's that? That's closed.
Let's
okay,
go to
cool.
the mall again.
Yeah.
Let's go to Oz and see that. Yeah. It looks like where the pictures point.
Look at that, a body shop. There's a body shop right here.
Relax the back.
This town has a body. Well, actually, that's a good shop though.
Relax the back?
Yeah, let's be honest. I
know, that's why I brought it up.
You could use a little relax the back around here. You should.
Yeah, this is a pretty shoddy operation.
Yeah.
but the content is king.
It's content is king. So
it's the garage.
In that way, you're fine.
It's the Garage Band podcast, man.
Definitely.
Let me ask you this: are you guys doing any dates in LA before you get back up and running to support the new album?
Yeah, we're talking about that now because we want to do something to sort of blow the dust off, so to speak. And
just make sure I know those dates.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to do one before.
Just one?
Yeah.
You need one date to blow the dust off.
Yeah.
Oil up the Tin Man, you're ready to go.
Just to oil everything, really.
One show?
Yeah, I think.
Not a run of them?
I think it's good to have.
What about rehearsals? How many rehearsals do you do? Do you have a big space?
We're rehearsing now, yeah.
Where's your space? Now. Ish.
It's in the Burbank-ish
Give out
area.
the address.
Yeah, it's actually 4204. Go fuck yourself, drive.
And how long is a rehearsal?
We do about 6 hours.
And when is it at night usually?
No, actually lately, we've been kind of doing 11 to 6.
Because you guys are dads.
Yeah, well, I'm a dad, so I like to go home and play with the kiddies,
What are the odds of sitting in on a rehearsal?
They're not very good, actually.
All right.
Yeah. Because right now we're
bad.
So much of what we're doing.
I thought that would get a laugh.
Yeah. So but it's correct. It's like, we're working on all this new stuff and it's complicated. So there's a lot of doing,
Yeah.
Which is great.
Which is also called Radiohead.
Yeah.
Doing, bang. Sounds like robots fucking.
Dave was actually talking about doing a all country cover version of Radiohead and calling it Rodeohead.
That's not a bad idea. Because there's that piano. There's a concert pianist that covered all of Radiohead songs.
You said pianist.
I did. You said pianist. We started by you measuring your Bono.
It was on the edge of my Bono.
Do you know the difference between Bono and God?
Not even God thinks he's Bono.
Yeah, God doesn't walk around Dublin pretending he's Bono.
I was thinking about the Edge. Like, do people call him the Edge, or is it just Edge? Like, would you go, hey, what's up, the Edge?
Bono in concert calls him the Edge.
Really?
It calls him both.
It's
I've
weird.
Heard both.
It's a trippy nickname.
What album do you wish you could...
If I was like, hey, what's up, the corner? You'd be like, what are you talking about? Well, I'm not only because that's not your nickname, but also because it's a strange nickname.
What's a worse nickname, Bono, The Edge, or Sting in all of rock and roll? Dimebag Darrell, probably the best of all time.
Yeah, that's a good nickname, actually.
Rest in peace.
Yeah. I mean, we have a thing where we just call someone Steve, as the utilitarian name.
Yeah.
And, so you'd be like, if it was, Ace
Say you
Frehley.
know a few more times.
Ace Frehley. It would be like his brother Steve Frehley. You know.
I do know.
And now you do.
Who are musicians out there in the ether that you're like, God, in a dream world, I'd love to play with this guy? I know that's like basically it's all of them, but if you just call,
I think Bowie's amazing. I think
nobody talks about Bowie ever.
Yeah, well, and he just put out a new record that's really good and sort of deep, very heady record, and I love Iggy Pop. Is really to me the Stooges are the greatest rock and roll band of all time.
Is that where you and Bourdain hooked up? You were on Anthony Bourdain's Christmas special. And
Yeah.
I'm saying to my wife, "That's Queens of the Stone Age. Look at their sweaters. That's Queens of the Stone Age."
We actually met in Berlin and kind of got a little bit messed up together backstage, and it was kind of early on in that show, and just kind of hit it off. I think we both didn't like the same stuff.
I've been
So
trying
we
to get him
bonded.
on this for years, but I think you got to go through Octavia. I think she's his new resident publicist.
I don't know her.
His wife,
Yeah.
Mrs. Bourdain.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
Queens of the Stone Age, like
know.
Clockwork, is coming out in June.
Yeah.
Is there anything people can? Well, they can order all of your albums if you go to, I guess, jmohr.com, click the Amazon banner. Look, my favorite Queens of the Stone Age albums are, it made me feel great, are Rated R and Songs for the Deaf. Those are because they were back to back, and it was. I like them all, but those two, they make me think of summer. It's very Orange County to me, even though I know you're a desert guy.
Yeah. Which would make me sort of the antithesis of Orange County.
Correct.
Because of desert. Yeah.
But it's one of those things. Yeah,
we
I
got
know.
meth and they have waves.
Yes.
Yeah. And we have waves of meth,
Waves after
Yeah.
wave.
Day
after. 7
when you try to swat the lion with dragon wings that you're seeing when you're on meth for 7 days.
How many times in your life have you done that?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that, Jay.
Parent teacher conferences are over. I know
Yeah.
from your text.
Yeah, exactly.
So now you're in the clear.
Well, I've experimented with many things in my life.
All right. Men,
Well, I never did that experiment, but I'm willing to learn. I'm here, aren't I?
close your garage door, man. Who's your favorite Beatle?
Is that code?
Yeah.
Close the garage door.
We can't do it with the garage door open. The dogs
Shouldn't you
get out.
open the garage door if we're going to experiment with men?
No, I could just call that your asshole.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
If we don't close
Steve,
the garage
can we
door,
call it Steve?
We'll call it Steve.
Have you seen Steve lately?
Where's Brown Steve?
He's closer than you can possibly imagine.
He is.
Yeah.
I'm sitting on him.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite Beatle?
Steve. What?
Who's your favorite Beatle?
God, that's a toughie.
Not really. There's only fucking 4 of them.
Well, there's two, yeah. I like Harrison a lot.
Yeah. Well, naturally.
Yeah, I like Harrison a lot.
When you listen to a Beatles album, can you tell? What amazes me is there's not a surplus of guitar sound.
Yeah.
Even though all 3 guys, Paul's an adequate guitar player, but with John, and they don't do that Keith Richards, Ron Wood like dueling guitars.
Sure.
There's not that sonic sound that you guys have with your guitarist. I'm always surprised when I listen to the Beatles. Like it's pretty much just a guy playing.
Yeah, and I love the empty space between the instruments.
Yeah.
I think that there's such a masterful use of space, and sometimes, or not sometimes. After years of playing, it all becomes what you don't do instead of what you're doing a lot of the times, and
the pauses make the symphony.
Absolutely, and I think that it takes real skill not to play something, because with every song, there's tons of stuff you could do. And when you know to stop doing something is when you really got something going on.
What happened to Monster Magnet? I love those guys, and they disappeared.
Yeah, those early records I really like.
Way too busy power tripping.
See, I like stuff before that, even like Spine of God.
Spine of God is amazing.
See, that was a great record, and when that came out, there were kind of no bands that were like that.
I was like, if anybody wants to know what happened to heavy metal, they're right here.
Yeah, and that was like this.
It.
That was like this amazing drug rock.
But then is that what got him in the end?
No, because
you played with.
Yeah, we toured with them. Queens toured with them, and Caius and Monster Magnet came out at the same time, and we were sort of, like the East Coast, West Coast, the Biggie Tupac thing.
Yeah,
it was a lot like that actually.
I was sad that you guys shot up the place that night when Monster Magnet was in there.
Someone had to die. You know, someone had to die.
I'm ready to die. There's going to be a lot of slow singing and flower bringing if my burglar alarm starts ringing.
Yeah, that's good.
George is your favorite Beatle. Monster Magnet, you don't know what happened to him?
Well, no, actually I don't. But, you know, I really love those first 2 records. Were great.
And anybody that wants to know what happened to metal now, it's not even metal anymore. Metal.
I was never a metal guy. I was more of a like a punk rock guy, really.
Yeah, it's like punk's